Part 1. The Deceiver's Last Trick. A Battle of Scripture and Shadows. The air trembled with an unseen force, thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. Beneath the blood-red sky of the forsaken valley, the ground quaked violently, splitting open like a festering wound. A lone figure clad in silvered armor, Seraphiel, a warrior of the divine order, knelt in prayer, his breath visible in the icy, unnatural chill. His armor glinted faintly, reflecting the crimson heavens as the abyss groaned in response. From the chasm emerged Malphas, the deceiver, his form shifting and writhing like smoke. His cloak, woven from the anguished cries of the lost, billowed around him, and his eyes burned with the cold fire of ancient lies. His voice, a venomous whisper, slithered through the air, carrying the weight of 1,000 betrayals. "You kneel in vain, Seraphiel," Malphas hissed, his skeletal fingers curling like claws. "Even your own scriptures declare it. For the Lord has mercy on whom he wills, and he hardens whom he wills." Romans 9 verse 18. If your God can harden hearts, how can he blame the fallen for their rebellion? The ground beneath Seraphiel cracked further, tendrils of shadow snaking toward him. He rose to his feet, his sword igniting with a blinding, holy light. "You twist truth into chains of deception," Seraphiel declared, his voice resonating with divine authority. "The hardened heart is not the work of an unjust God, but of those who resist him. Pharaoh's own pride was his undoing. As it is written, 'Do not be deceived, for God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows.'" Galatians 6 verse 7. The shadows recoiled, hissing like serpents, but Malphas only grinned, his form flickering into a grotesque mockery of an angel. Pride? Is that what you call it? Or is it the courage to defy a tyrant? The battle had only begun. The temptation of power. A storm gathered overhead, the sky churning with blackened clouds. Spectral mist rose from the ground, shrouding the valley in an eerie, otherworldly fog. Malphas' voice shifted, becoming smooth and alluring, like the whisper of a lover. "Did not your own Lord say, 'You are gods,' Psalm 82 verse 6? He murmured, his form now a radiant figure of light, a twisted mimicry of divinity. "Does this not mean mortals have the power to ascend, to rule, to become divine? Why grovel before a throne when you can claim one?" Seraphiel's sword blazed brighter, the holy fire cutting through the mist. That verse warns those given power to uphold justice. It is not an invitation to rebellion, for it is also written, "Before me no God was formed, nor shall there be after me." Isaiah 43 verse 10. Thunder roared, and the ground split further, revealing glimpses of the abyss below. Malphas hissed, his form flickering between shapes. King, priest, prophet. All those who had once fallen to the same temptation he now wielded. "You cling to your chains, Seraphiel," Malphas sneered, his voice echoing with the voices of the damned. "But I offer freedom. Freedom to rise above the petty rules of your so-called God." Seraphiel's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening on his sword. "Your freedom is a prison, Malphas, and your lies will not sway me." The final confrontation. The mist thickened, and whispers of doubt crawled into the minds of those who watched from the ruined towers. Malphas' final trick came in a whisper, soft and insidious, like a blade slipping between the ribs. "Even your Christ doubted," he murmured, his form now a shadowy reflection of Seraphiel himself. My God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27 verse 46. If even he was abandoned, what hope do you have? For a moment, silence filled the battlefield. The weight of Malphas' words hung in the air, suffocating and heavy. Seraphiel's sword dimmed, the light flickering as if struggling against the darkness. Then, with a roar that shook the heavens, Seraphiel raised his hand to the sky. "You take his cry of anguish and twist it into despair, but I know the full truth. He was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him." Isaiah 53 verse 5. His suffering was the price of victory. A blast of divine light erupted from his palm, shattering the dark mist and illuminating the valley in a blinding, golden radiance. Malphas shrieked, his form unraveling like thread caught in a flame. The shadows writhed and burned, their whispers turning to screams as the weight of uncorrupted truth fell upon them. With one final, ear-splitting wail, Malphas was cast back into the abyss, the chasm sealing shut with a deafening crash. The valley fell silent, the air thick with the acrid scent of charred earth and fading divinity. Seraphiel stood amidst the ruins, his armor scarred but unbroken, the dawn's golden light washing over him like a benediction. He turned to the watchers, the lost souls huddled in the shadows, and raised his sword, its blade still smoldering with holy fire. "Truth remains," he declared, his voice echoing across the desolate expanse. "But the war is far from won. The Deceivers' shadows will rise again, and so must we." A dark-haired teenage boy jolts awake in a cold sweat, his chest heaving. His room is dim, lit only by the pale glow of a street lamp outside his window. His hands tremble as he clutches the sheets, his eyes, one hazel, the other unervingly flecked with gold, wide with lingering terror. He staggers to a cracked mirror, where his reflection stares back, haunted. Behind him, the shadows seem to breathe, forming faint, clawed shapes. A voice, too familiar, whispers from the silence. "You think it was just a dream, little prophet?" The boy's gaze drops to his forearm, where a faint, glowing mark, a twisted sigil resembling Malphas' cloak, pulses beneath his skin. He recoils, scrambling to cover it with his sleeve, but the whispers grow louder, overlapping in a chorus of deceit. "You've only seen the first act. The war is yours to finish, or to lose. The battle is only the beginning." Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 2, The Ancient Spirit.